I think I can welcome everybody to the online celebration of a celebration. And this is the reunion event for last year's event, which celebrated 50 years of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. My name is Martijn Mulder, on the tracks of 007, and I'm joined here today by Tom, Chris, and Brian of JBR fame, Jeff Wybo, James Bond Canada, Joe Darlington, being James Bond, Markus Hartmann, being the president of the Swiss fan club, Warren Ringham, cue the music, and Frejdh from Sweden with Love, also managing George Lazenby, among others. So welcome everybody, and I'm glad you could all join me here today. How are we all doing?
Good.
Right.
Yeah. Doing great.
You've all been part of last year's event in one way or another. So I think I'm going to talk us through the start of the event, which started last year in Portugal and Switzerland like 9 or 10 days later. And everybody at home, we just saw the video of this journey, and I want to thank Jeff and Benjamin Lind, especially for the fantastic footage that I could use. And the idea for this event started like a logical step right after the Japan tour, celebrating You Only Live Twice in 2017. And I had this idea, and it would involve the two main filming locations, Estoril, Portugal, and Mürren, Switzerland. So one of the first things I did was to contact them and to go there to meet people, to meet the people in charge, you know, looking for support for this event. Portugal was a lot of fun. I don't know if I ever told anyone, but when I got there, I entered my room and I looked out of the balcony of the Palacio Hotel, and I looked down into the garden, and there was this Aston Martin DBS parked. And since they knew I was coming to talk about the event, you know, I thought, geez, these guys take this event seriously. They parked this DBS outside, especially for me. So I was pleased, and I thought everything was going rather well. And I had this talk with the manager, and he was very much into it. And then a few days later, the car was still parked outside, and I thought maybe I should ask somebody what this car is all about. And it turned out it was for a wedding, and it had totally nothing to do with me. So it was sort of a surprise. But at that time, I knew there was a car, and we could use that, I hoped. But then we went on a Swiss trip, and I'm going to turn to my friend Markus. Markus, you and I went together on a trip to Switzerland. Do you remember that trip? I think it was 2018.
Should I remember it?
Yeah, what happened?
What happened? Well, what happened, we had a meeting to meet with the people there in charge to talk through the idea. I picked you up at the airport in Zurich. We drove all the way there. On halfway, I texted them a message. We are there about 1 hour, 30 minutes. No reply. Yeah, okay, we still have time. We got there, and to make a long story very short, nobody was there waiting for us.
We were just there by ourselves, right?
Yeah, and we still went up. We're already there, so let's enjoy the day, and they might eventually come up later. So that's what we did, and we tried to call them, had lunch, which was nice, had a good view, but that was not the main purpose, to be there. So at the end, we had to leave without anything in our bags, or can, as you would say in America, and I had to drive Martin back in order not to miss his flight. So that was a bit, the first thing was a bit of a tumble. So, that was not really the idea about it.
So I came home, and my girlfriend asked me, how was the trip? And I was like, I've been on the road for 10 hours or something, and we didn't see anybody. Well, we saw a lot of people, but not the people we wanted to see.
Yeah.
So on my way back, I told you, Markus, that we would probably celebrate the 50th anniversary of On Her Majesty's on top of the Eiger, waving at everybody on at Piz Gloria, because it didn't look good at that time.
At that time, not too good, yeah, but it was quite a time ahead, luckily.
It was a long time. We were very good on schedule. And Anders, is Anders still here?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Anders. you and I had some discussions about the event very early on. And of course, you being George's manager surely opened a door for me for the event. It made something possible. And we very early on, we talked about possibly having Terence and George at Gincho Beach. So at some point, you must have talked to them about it. How did they respond? What was their initial reaction?
I did mention it briefly before the trip, yes. No, but it's quite a funny story actually, and I will never forget it, because Terry, of course, was super excited. I mean, he's like one of us basically.
Yeah.
I usually say to people that Terry, I think, is George's biggest fan, because he always speaks gracious about him, and he's a fan like us, and he just feels very privileged to have been part of the movies. So Terry, of course, was super excited about this idea to go to Gincho Beach, and I personally actually had been to that beach, but long time ago, and before I even know that it was a Bond, I mean, related to Majesty. So I was actually also very excited to go there, and then even we were like 5 minutes from the beach. George turns around to me in the car and says, "Andrews, why are we going here?" and I tell him that, well, because you did this movie, remember? And there was a beach fight. Oh yes, that movie. But why are we going there? Yeah, because there's a group of people there waiting for you and we're all gonna go to the beach. Yeah, but why? Why? So he didn't really get. But then I think eventually, it went really well in the end. And I think he was a great sport too, because I think if you remember, that day was so windy. It was the wind was blowing in our faces, and even I felt it was painful. And I said to George, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because we could, we can stay here, we can go down to the beach." But no, let's do it. So and Terry, of course, was no problem at all.
And do you recognize these sunglasses?
Of course.
The famous sunglasses.
Of course, they saved the day actually. For George.
George wore them. George wore them, at the beach, because otherwise he couldn't see anything. So.
Exactly. No, I think both him and Terry were great sport, and I think I would personally never forget it. Of course, that we were there. That was great.
And we're skipping a part now, but since we're talking about Gincho Beach, Joe, what did you do at Gincho Beach?
Well, I had an incredible time for one thing, and when you're talking about the wind, you're not kidding, because I actually tried to go back down to once everyone had left the beach. I tried to go back down just to take some shots of the beach while it was empty. I literally couldn't get back down the steps. I mean, I was walking, trying to shield my eyes, and I literally just couldn't do it. I just gave up and went back up. So, I mean, that was kind of a testament to, to how it was. But yeah, afterwards, I decided, and I specifically wore my, I have like kind of a casual outdoor tuck shirt that I wore that day, and I saw the water, and I said, you know what, I'm going in. So I went into the water, and it was, and by the way, the undertow was no joke. So I literally couldn't kind of swim, like I wasn't going to take my feet off the ground, but I went into the water, so I could say that I actually did it. Went into the same beach, into the same water. You had your Tracy moment. I certainly did.
Did anyone come in to rescue you?
No.
Oh.
Joe, didn't George and I bump into you right after you came out of the water or something? I recall that we met you in this bar or something just after you had been in the water.
Yeah. I came out and I'm still head to toe soaking wet, and George is looking at me like, what happened to this guy?
Yeah, he was like, what the fuck have you done?
and nobody was there. I kind of like, I mean, some people I said I'm gonna walk down. I don't know if I said I was gonna actually go into the water. And as I was starting to go in, and the undertow was really pretty wicked, I said to myself, maybe I should have kind of told somebody this is where I might be if I go missing, whatever. But it was great fun, and it was, like I said, I could say that I did it.
That's fantastic. Unfortunately, it wasn't caught on camera. Otherwise, it would have been included in the film, of course.
Yeah. I do have a couple shots of me like soaking wet afterwards. Actually, there's a video floating around that somebody sent me, but yeah.
Oh, interesting. We saved that for next year.
There you go.
But when at some point the event sort of evolved into what it was, it started out as a small idea, and then suddenly it evolved into this big 10-day event with a lot of cast and crew members, which wasn't the original idea. But thanks to Anders, suddenly a lot of things became possible. So at some point we started the event in Portugal. Jeff, can you remember your initial thoughts of the Palacio when you first came in there?
Yeah, well, I think I was one of the unique people that was traveling with my family at the time. So my wife and little daughter, probably the youngest person to attend, Sadie. She was 1 at the time that came on the trip. So she was there right at the beginning, and then
she's still talking about it.
She's still talking about it. And I'm sure a lot of people that even George was hanging out with her a few times. Everybody remembered her. But yeah, the Palacio, nothing changed from the movie. So you're just walking into 1969 right there. So for all of us, we're all just fanboys. Amazing, absolutely incredible. And then the amount of hospitality that the staff gave to us, incredible that you guys actually pulled it off. Because everybody who's listening, I was just an attendee at the event. So absolutely amazing and really easy to bring the family. So if you got families, drag them out. It's a great time.
Yeah, it was it's a lot of fun, the Palacio. And then the first real event day was a Saturday, and we sort of split up. We had our big VIP tour. They went on a touristic bus. Markus, you were in charge of the touristic bus, and I think you had carte blanche, as they say, what to do with them. So what did you do?
Yeah, it was quite funny, because when you talked to me the first time about this idea, people probably not everybody will know about. You told me you're in charge of the VIPs, and I'm like, yes, okay. What I'm supposed to do? I don't know. Just go around, spend a nice day. Okay, but I've never been to Lisbon. I don't know what to see, what to offer them. So I took how can you say? I took my joker out. And I asked you if I can take my sister-in-law to help me out, because she's just moved from Ireland. They moved to Lisbon, and she went on board. People who have been there on board, Jemima, she was helping me a lot then, and I really gave her all the things. I have to give her a lot of credit, because I'm responsible, but you're behind. You have to know all the facts about Lisbon and where to go, and she really dived into and driving around for days, and she sent me the footage. What do you think about that? I said, yeah, great, let's do that in. So I think it turned out quite nicely. It
was good. And you were going to Belém, which is like just outside Lisbon.
Yes.
And then the bus went to Sintra, which is a UNESCO heritage town. And I was on the other bus, and I was doing for the other people was doing some visits, and the two buses met at Sintra. So we all hung out there for a while, and we had lunch, if I remember correctly. And then what did you do? Did you go back to the hotel afterwards? You remember?
Jesus, it's already 1 year, getting old. No, we went back. We had a stop in Cascais, if I pronounce it correctly, to see some of the movie scenes which have been shot there, just briefly from the parking slot. And then eventually, this thing is creeping out. Then eventually we went back to the hotel. Or I might miss some bit. People who have been on the bus with me, Joe, maybe you can help me out. Did I miss something after Sintra?
No, I think you got it.
Yeah, so you all got back to the hotel, and after a while the other bus got to the hotel as well. Then we had to prepare for the big garden party.
Right.
Anders, How was George looking forward to that? He must have been buzzing from excitement, meeting all his fans in the garden.
You're muted, Anders. You're muted, Anders.
Yes, of course he was looking forward to that. So I told him that Björn, who is a Swedish friend of mine, who was the one getting married, and I said you would make his day, you know, if we could attend his wedding to start with. And he said, okay, sure, let's do that. So he was very very cool about that. And then of course I think there was a break somehow. Yes. Before the big event in the evening. So
yeah, the wedding was on Sunday. The big event was on a Saturday.
Ah, yes, that's right. Oh yeah, it's like Markus says, we're getting old.
Dinner with the ambassador.
Of course, yeah. No, yeah, that I do remember the ambassador.
Right.
No, but that was a fun. I mean, it was. Let me think. Yeah, was everybody going to the dinner as well? Because there was, the garden party, and then there was this dinner afterwards. And the group shot we had also before the dinner there.
We had 60 people of our group, I think, and there were 50 people from the British Embassy.
That's right. It was not. It was just. It wasn't just us. It was also local people that the ambassadors. That he had invited. But yeah, now I remember what you wanted to talk about. Yes, the original idea was that that the ambassador was going to pick up George in an Aston Martin, and I believe was it the same Aston Martin that you had seen the year before, or? No,
because that Aston Martin turned out to have been sold like weeks prior to the event. So it was like.
Oh, okay. But anyhow, yeah, because you told me that I should wait in the lobby for the ambassador to come, and so I was there with George, keeping him company. And he says, Anders, when are we going? And I said, we're just waiting for this car. And I said, okay. And then time went by, and there was no car, and I think I spoke to you briefly or something. And then after like half an hour's wait or something. It was decided that there will be no car. There's no car coming, so we just have to walk out. so that was a shame, because otherwise the original plan was to pick him up in the car to drive around the hotel and come in on the other side. That's right.
Somebody fucked up.
Yeah, we still don't know where the car is, I believe.
But the party was fun. Jeff, you shot a lot of footage there as well. Even the full interview we had on stage with George and Terry, and the one mistake I made, and that is I got two microphones, and I accidentally gave one to George and one to Terry. And you never give if you have two guests on stage, you never give them both a mic, because I had no way to come in between them, and George was like going on and on and on, and he was talking. And once he starts talking, he's a great storyteller. I mean, many of the stories we have already heard, but for instance, for the embassy people, those were all new stories. But that's one thing I learned: never give all your mics away. But you shot a lot of footage there.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at your itinerary, and when I was traveling there, I thought a lot of the days could be videos. So when I knew something was happening, I kind of double-hatted, because I was there as a guest, but then I'm like, okay, I want to record this because it's the 50th anniversary for us, but in 100 years, there's going to be someone who never even knows about us right now who could be watching that footage. And I think it was very important to document it because, there are behind-the-scenes documentaries on the DVDs and Blu-rays, but what we experienced, I think, should be involved in the history of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, because I think we checked that box going. So that's why I wanted to document it, and I was holding it up with my hand for, I think it was a 30-minute talk, and I was watching my battery life go down. I was like, oh, hopefully the battery doesn't die.
It's amazing you did that, because it's something you often forget to do when you're actually in the moment enjoying it, and actually having that hour's footage you just had to go back and watch it is priceless.
Exactly. So hopefully to anybody who missed it, you can go and watch it. And again, yeah, in 20 years, someone's going to be like, there was a 50th anniversary trip. Like some 10-year-old Bond fan who in 20 years is going to watch these videos probably.
Exactly. It's quite unique. It was, I think, a first for any film to have a 50th anniversary being celebrated over 9 days on the original locations. So that was pretty cool. And then we had a wedding during our event, which Anders briefly mentioned. Björn got married to Mimi, which was a unique opportunity actually to include a marriage into the whole On Her Majesty's event, because, you know, just to stay in theme. And for them, it was great to have it at the Palacio with George attending, of course. So that was pretty cool. And they brought this band from Sweden, which was pretty good. And we all enjoyed a rather good party afterwards. So
yeah, I can add a little information for everybody from Björn, actually, because Björn is a very gracious man.
He is.
And I think for some reason or the other there was some misunderstanding, because the entire group, the VIP group, and everybody who was on the tour was actually invited to this private after party that he had for his wedding dinner. But for some reason there were a lot of people missing at some point, so there were lots of alcohol wasted that night because he had ordered, you know, he had ordered so much alcohol, and I mean, he had to pay for it anyway, you know. So he was a little bit disappointed afterwards that
but we didn't drink it all.
No, exactly, because we didn't drink it, but he paid for it. So
right.
And in Sweden, that's not a good thing if you pay for alcohol that you don't drink.
It's nowhere a good thing.
Yeah.
So it goes to the you know, it's a lot of tax money as well.
Right. So then after the weekend, some of us, or some of the group, went home. Some of them went to Switzerland, but the main group, the VIP group, stayed there, and we did some amazing location visits. We went to the Palacio, the Marquesas de Frontera, which is a great site which is used in the love montage. And then we were at Ginshow, where we met up with you, Anders, and George and Terry and Silvana. And what else did we do that day? We went to Cascais, and I think that was the first day.
Well, we went to the beach. We went to the bull ring was another day, wasn't it?
That was another day.
Yeah, that was another.
That was a fun adventure as well. That was on the Tuesday, and we on our bus we all went to Zambujal, as the place is called, which is where the house is and where the bull ring is, where Bond got married, and where they celebrate Draco's birthday party. And you were with George and Terry. I don't think Silvana was there. No, she wasn't.
No.
Now,
It was. I was driving, and it was George and Terry and my friend Mark Cerulli.
Right.
I think.
And,
I think.
Yeah.
Marcus, yeah.
Yeah, he was on board.
And we were jumping on this, this jumpy road. I don't know.
It was kind of difficult. People don't understand that place doesn't have an address or anything. It's like a little town in the middle of nowhere. It's a couple of houses around the farm. And you were texting me like, where do I have to go to? And I was trying to give you directions, and it was almost impossible.
Yeah,
but in the end, you did find it, and you found us, which was
yeah. Because I remember you had taken photos on the way when you were going there.
Right.
You took a few photos on the way that you sent to me, so I had some visual guidelines.
Exactly. Yeah, but that was fun to be with George at the bull ring, even though he once again it didn't ring a bell or anything. It's always funny how for us it's we can't. It's very hard to imagine that he couldn't remember that, but on the other hand, it's one of the many things he did.
I mean, having gotten to know him, having gotten to know him pretty well now, it's quite fascinating because I mean I'm a big fan myself. Of course, I'm a huge Bond fan, And of course, if you meet somebody like him and then you talk about a certain thing from his movie, and then you might find it very odd that he doesn't remember it. But it's like you said before, it's 50 years ago, Bond is just one thing in his life. He's done many other things. So it's not that strange that he doesn't remember all these details, which we think he would remember it. But, he's done so many other things in his life that he can't remember it all.
But
I can't even remember what I did 10 years ago.
No,
we can't remember this trip.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we did that. Joe, what did you like about the bull farm and the house? Anything particular?
I mean, I loved all of it, but I have to tell you honestly, walking into the bull ring, there were moments in the trip that you really did. I mean, again, the whole thing is spectacular, but then there were certain moments when you just felt like you just stepped into the film. And I swear that, like, when we got to the bull ring and we could see where the Cougar was parked, where the Aston Martin was parked, and the Cougar pulls in, and the heart's already starting to beat a little quicker. And I think walking up the steps and seeing the bull ring, that was just incredible. It was just really amazing. It was, again, just so eerily like you see it on screen.
Right.
Just couldn't get over it.
I think that's one of the best things about the On Her Majesty's locations, both in Portugal and Switzerland, that they haven't changed a lot.
Yeah.
It's all so very recognizable.
Yeah.
And that's really amazing, I think.
It really is. Honestly, there were so many moments like that when, I can, even when I first checked into the hotel, honestly, I remember kind of having that sort of moment where I got into my room and I walked, it was a great room, and then I walked to the other side to the balcony, and I was like, oh my God, this is just like the movie. And then I looked out. When you look down and you saw the pool, it was like, wow, like this is really seriously just like the film. You walk down and you see the pool, and I even was kind of like, it sort of blew my mind that you could see the casino next door, and on the roof in big red letters you saw, it said casino Estoril. I said, like, this is just like the movie. Like the movie, like you could tell there's a little movie magic to sort of make the letters sort of show up, but I said, but it's actually there.
Yeah.
So
a bit further away than it looks.
But honestly, like you could, I think, on the right night or whatever, you could possibly have seen the reflection, etc. So it was not. There are moments when you feel like, well, that must be just sort of movie magic to make it look like no, it's actually there. So so this is very, and the bull ring, like I said, just so many of these moments where you just felt like wow, like how, like who would have thought 50 years later you could have an experience like that where you're just literally getting your heart's beating because you're kind of in that film.
Yeah.
Martin, I've got a quick question, if that's all right. The residence where they had the bull ring, is it the same people, the same family that own it that were there back in the 60s? I believe it is, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Still the same family.
Wow.
And at some point, when I visited them for the first time, I met the lady of the house, who was actually the daughter-in-law, and she was very friendly, and she took me in her car and she drove me around because it's a huge estate, there's a lot of it's a huge area, and she explained everything to me, and so at some point a few years later I got back there with a small group of 10 people, just a small tour, and she agreed to that, and she said, yeah, sure, come in and we'll make you lunch. And she had a maid, and the maid made us a huge table full of food, which was so nice and so friendly. And during that lunch, she's at some point she turned to us and she said, yeah, well, my parents, my in-laws, they have this 8mm film from when they were making the film, and we were all like, no way, can you go look for it, or that's like the holy grail of On Her Majesty's. She said, yeah, well, I'll look for it at some point, and we all got really excited, but in the end, after months of searching, she couldn't find it, and she emailed me and she said, well, yeah, probably it was put on video and at some point my mother-in-law must have taped over it. And I was like, you can't believe this. So up until today, it has never surfaced. It's unbelievable.
That's crazy. A quick question about that casino in Estoril that Joe just mentioned.
Yeah.
I think that has another Bond link, because I remember the footage of Fleming saying that back in the war, he went to that casino and played against Nazis and lost. And that was what inspired the story of Casino Royale. Was that
exactly? Estoril has a huge spy connection, because Portugal was a neutral country during the Second World War, and all the rich people fled to Portugal, and mainly Lisbon, Estoril coast. So there was a lot of influential people out there. So all the spies came there as well. The Allied spies, the German spies. And the funny thing is they had separate hotels. The Allied spies were in the Palacio Hotel. And next door, there was another big hotel, which was called Hotel do Parque, which doesn't exist anymore. And that's where the Germans were. And they were just playing games with each other, trying to get information or giving each other wrong information. And both parties knew of each other's presence, and they just played along. And there are very funny stories. But that's why all the spies were in Estoril. And that's where, because the Palacio still has the registration of Ian Fleming in their books. They show it proudly on the wall, Ian Fleming checked in, I don't know, 44 or something. And the other person that checked in there was Duško Popov, which is a famous spy, a double agent. And apparently Fleming saw Popov play at the Casino Estoril, which allegedly inspired him to write the Casino Royale story. So that's the story behind that. But when the German hotel was demolished in the 60s or something, they found kilometers of wires and eavesdropping listening devices in the walls. Everything was bugged. So I can only assume that the same goes for the Palacio. That still all these wires are still there.
Were you like Bond checking out your room for all the little listening devices behind you?
Yeah. There's still Germans listening to us. No, but that's a great story attached to Estoril, actually. And they're very proud of it. And the funny thing is that only in recent years, they start to exploit that connection to James Bond and to Ian Fleming, and they realize that there's a potential market for that as well. So not many places do that. I mean, another place that does that really well, of course, is Piz Gloria, which where we're going now. Because after Estoril, we all went on a plane and we took off to Switzerland. And we met up in Bern at the Schweiz Hotel. And the Schweizer Hotel is where the balcony is, as we all know, where Bond receives the safe cracking device from Campbell. So, but during the time that we were at the Schweizer Hotel, it must have been, I think, one of the last days of May last year. Warren, what were you doing at the time? Were you in full preparation for your show?
Yeah, round about then. It would have been about a 40-hour day for me, travelling out with all the kit and arriving out in Murin. Yeah, it was a really, really long trip. But actually, it started before for me because Brian and I did a recce about 12 months before. And I mean, I have to say, often when we get booked for events, people will ask, "Oh, can you do a recce?" Because they like to feel the security that you're going to show up. But for most of the time, a band, you just turn up, set up on the stage, and play. There's no need to do a recce. But apart from the fact it was a really good excuse to go out to Piz Gloria for a second time, this one obviously was one I wanted to do a recce for because so much was at stake in terms of the people that were there, and I wanted to be absolutely perfect, but also B, I didn't really know how we were going to get the kit up the mountain, whether it was even possible,
Right.
whether we were going to have, because I had visions of the cable cars being not as secure and advanced and actually safe as they were. Really, I kind of imagined it being a lot smaller and a gap between where stopped us trying to push all the
Right.
equipment over off the edge of a cliff. So all of that, and then of course actually where we were going to play in the actual venue itself, was it going to be feasible? It would have been horrendous to have shipped all the kit out there and for to have paid for all the band to come and the accommodation and else, then get up there and go, actually, sorry, it's not possible to play here.
Because you and I actually had quite some discussion about where you eventually play.
Let's say it was heated. In fact, Brian, because Brian came on the recce with me, Brian will back me up here. I sweated for 12 months about trying to persuade you, because initially the vision that you had, and I think the venue had, was that they wanted us to play in the restaurant, the revolving restaurant.
Right.
But having now seen the band set up where we did set up, which was on the level below, now you can appreciate how I was trying to say to you, there's just no way that's going to work up there,
Right.
Because initially you had the vision of people sitting at the tables and revolving round, and I was like, how are you going to feel if you only get to see like 15 minutes of the gig every hour?
That was a good point.
It was. I remember even a few weeks before that you and I had all sorted it out, and you were like, okay, I trust your judgment and everything else. But then Schildhorn got involved, didn't they? And at the last minute, they were actually saying, no, we want it up at the top. And I was like, oh, we've had this argument, we sorted it out.
I just remember you being exhausted traveling there, and then exhausted coming back as well. You just spent that 2 or 3 days in a slumber, I think.
Well, yeah, no, that's true. I can't deny that. But actually, when we were actually there, it was like just pure adrenaline, wasn't it? I mean, you and I had such an amazing weekend. And thank goodness, because you drove pretty much all the way there, because I came straight off the back of another gig, got straight in the car. I haven't been up all night and slept all the way, or slept some of the way, I think. But
yeah,
it was just amazing. And I was great to be able to share it with you as well, Brian.
Yeah, it was terrific. It was just wall to wall. Majesty's there in the same back, wasn't it? We played every soundtrack imaginable. It was a brilliant experience, just to sort of to have a taster of it before we eventually went back again.
We had one conversation that I must share, and everybody in the group will have an opinion on this as well. But there was a moment when we were about half an hour away from Piz Gloria, and I turned to you and I said, you know what? We've been building up to this, not only for the last few months or whatever, but actually our entire lives. This is probably the most iconic, or one of the most iconic locations to visit. How do you think it's going to fare? Is it going to not meet your expectations, or surpass your expectations? And we both were saying we thought it would exceed, but we'd just be happy if it met our expectations, because we built it up in our heads so much. And then we came away, we had the conversation coming away, and I said, oh, how was it? And it was like, by far and away, it exceeded our expectations, didn't it?
Oh, completely. Because, I mean, for me, I was a child of 69, so going to Piz Gloria is something I wanted to do since I was a kid, and I thought I want to get there either on or before 2019. But I had no idea that when I did eventually get there, it would not only be with so many great people, but with a Bond community literally around the world. And you're right. I remember you saying, has it met your expectations? It's just far outstripped them. Absolutely, just absolutely unbelievable from start to finish.
I spent the next 12 months winding the band up about it, saying this is going to be the most amazing gig you've ever done, the most amazing weekend. And they kept saying, how can it possibly live up to this expectation you've set on it? And I said, this is the great thing about Piz Gloria, guys. No matter how much I build it up for the next 12 months, it'll still blow you away, and it did. All of them.
Good question. Yeah.
Well, we were in Bern, enjoying some good times. And Anders, you took the VIPs already to Muren, didn't you?
Yes, we flew in to Zurich Airport, and then we went to Bern, like you said, and then after George and I was up there in that room, or was Terry with us as well?
Don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it was only George.
I'm trying to think. Why wasn't he with us? I can't remember now. Actually. Yeah, George. We were up there, and then I took them back to, or I took them to Mürren, I should say, because they were all. I mean, of course, George and Terry, and Silvana, of course, and her husband. They were with us from Portugal, but everybody else was flying in from England. You know, Vic Armstrong and Wendy. John Glenn and his wife, Stephen Saltzman and his wife, Eddie Stacy, Jenny Handley and her son, Catherine Schell, Helena René. So there were lots of people that I had to keep track of to make sure that everyone was, you know, had arrived safe and sound and checked into the rooms and was ready for the weekend. So that was actually one of the toughest days for me, actually, to get everyone sorted and checked in and made sure everyone was fine.
Yeah, it was quite an achievement, keeping everybody happy all the time.
Well, you know, it's I mean, as all of us know who has done an event before, it's so much work that nobody really sees. I mean, it's not just. It's even though it's a couple of persons are responsible for an event, there's so many people involved, and everything needs to work out, and otherwise it doesn't work.
Exactly. But one thing that has to be said is that we were so very lucky with the people from Schildhornbahn, because they embraced the whole event so much, and they've done more bond events. You know, I've been a guest myself a couple of years ago. They have this huge Bond World thing, so they really promote the whole Bond thing. And whenever they have the opportunity, they will throw a James Bond party. So they really embrace the idea of us tying in the whole On Her Majesty, because I knew they were going to do something for On Her Majesty's.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I was lucky to be at both of the previous events because I provided the cast and crew people also for those events, and so I got to know Christoph Egger pretty well, and absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I mean, without their support, it wouldn't have been the same. Absolutely not. No, it would have been impossible to do the same thing without their support. So Schildhornbahn should have full credit.
Also, the small details, you know, they looked after everything. At some point when we left Bern, we had 2 old buses that we that we used to drive to Mürren. And the question rose, what to do with all the luggage? You know, we have 40 people, many Americans. What do we do with the luggage? Because it won't fit in the buses. So they arranged an extra van with a trailer. And they just they collected all the luggage and they brought it straight to Mürren. And it's stuff like that is so helpful. And
Martin, I've got to say, as someone that's had a whole career out of doing events like and gigs and events like this, corporate events, I've never, in 20 years of doing it, I've never ever seen anybody organise it and look after everybody as well as you did and they did. Second to absolutely nobody of any event I've ever done. It was phenomenal. From first to last minute.
Absolutely, and I think we should name drop them as well, because Christoph, of course, is the CEO of Schildhornbahn, but we should name drop Alan, for example, is the Scottish guy that I'm sure everybody met. He did a fantastic job. Alan Ramsey, I should say his surname, and of course Sammy, of course, Samuel Boren, of course, who did a tremendous job as well. Absolutely, he was working his ass off.
Because that was funny, because after the first adventure I had with Markus in Switzerland, and I was sort of giving up on having Gloria on board, you brought me into contact with Sammy. You said, "Oh, I know this guy, and he works for Schildhornbahn, and maybe you two should have a chat." And
yeah, because I had met him actually in Stockholm, I think some time before, because they were trying to pitch an idea over here with me.
Right.
So when I heard that you had not met with Christoph, I immediately gave you Samuel's details. So that was good.
And that was really helpful. Sammy, he went on a few trips to Amsterdam for just for business, so we could meet up a couple of times and we discussed the ideas and yeah. As I said, they really embraced the whole event, and they really turned it into something spectacular. Because, for instance, it was their idea to do the helicopter flights. He at some point proposed, "Shall we do helicopter flights? And we have to charge you for that. But would people be interested in that?" And I'm so happy I said yes. The things people really remember for many years, those amazing helicopter flights all the way up to into the
yes, that's actually something that I didn't do, and I regret I didn't do it because I should mention also my very good friend Sasha Brown, because he was an amazing photographer to have throughout this trip, and I'm sure everybody has seen his photos in the book.
Yeah.
But actually, Steven Saltzman and his wife were very gracious to Sasha and I, and they just because of the work we had done, they offered us to treat us to a helicopter flight. But but actually, Sasha and I we simply couldn't do it because our schedule didn't allow it, sadly. So I have to go back.
So at some point we all ended up in Muren again. Tom, Chris, you had been to Muren before, right? Because you had been there that winter.
Yeah, because I was worried when you announced the date that the snow would all be gone, and I thought the first time I lay eyes on Piz Gloria, I need for there to be snow on the ground. You know, sometimes you see pictures of it from the summer months and it's green everywhere, and I thought I can't have that. I've got to have it exactly in the film. So we went out in February to see it there. But then, of course, when we came back in the summer, it was still snow everywhere anyway. So it was, it made no difference. But yeah, dude, it was such an unbelievably amazing weekend. It was just, it's difficult to even put it into words how good it was. It's just one of those things where if you think about it, we can't really ever have an event like that ever again for any other movie or for anything, because it's like, you managed to get George to Switzerland and Portugal, obviously, and I'm still kicking myself that I didn't do Portugal. But if you think about it, Roger's not with us anymore. You're not getting Sean anywhere. You're not getting Tim anywhere. Maybe in 10 years you might get Piers to show up somewhere, but you do it begrudgingly and he wouldn't like it. And you're definitely not getting Daniel anywhere. So it's like that's the only one of its kind you're ever going to get. It's just, it was such a special time. And to be in that place, which I think might be, it's got to be top 3 most beautiful places in the world if it's not the most beautiful, because you get up the top there and you look around and it's just it feels like you're on another planet. There's a weird visual thing that happens where it almost looks like it's computer generated or something. Yeah, it's so strange. It looks like a painting when you're up there. I can't describe it other than like some of the photos we've got of everybody up there. It almost looks like we're stood in front of like a back. Yeah, so it's the weirdest thing. It's just unbelievable. Yeah,
the photos and videos don't do it justice, do they, Tom?
No,
they don't.
I just remember, like, basically there were 2 carloads of us that turned up at the airport driving down to Muren, and it was just the level of excitement amongst everyone. So basically everyone was on a really high level of excitement just turning up at the airport. So we hadn't even got to Muren, and it just built and built and built throughout the whole weekend. And I remember we turned up at the cable car and met you, Martin. We got out, and I was so excited to see you. I was like, Martin, right? And then obviously we got all of our wristbands to go up, and we went back to our hotels. Everyone again was building up the excitement. Everyone got dressed up to the nines, got the dinner jacket on and everything, and popped down to the bar, had a few drinks. And we were really lucky actually, because I know that first evening there was obviously the black tie dinner. At the hotel, which we were planning on going to. Obviously, we ended up going to. But there was a few of the JPR lot having drink in the bar downstairs, and Darren was there, and he saw Tom and I wander past and just knocked on the window. Was like, "Hey boys, come in and have a drink." And we're like, oh yeah, go on then. We've got a little bit of time. So I'm so glad he did that, because basically we popped in there, we had a little drink, and about 10 minutes later, George wandered in by himself, just sort of looking around, going as if he wanted, you know, someone to have a chat to him. And it was just us in the bar. So we wandered up to him, said hello, introduced ourselves, brought him over, and obviously Paul Jameson, one of our lot, offered to buy him a drink. And then for the next hour, we just had George to ourselves, telling his stories, and all of us were like, it's that surreal moment where you're super excited inside, but what you're seeing is almost unreal, but you're absolutely loving it. And the strangest thing was that over his head, they had a screen that was playing on a Majesty's Secret Service at the same time. So there's a group of us looking at George, talking to George, with Majesty's playing on the screen behind him, and it was one of the best sort of experiences. And there were some people who turned up a bit later, and I think Tom had messaged a few people saying, boys, George is here, quick, get down to the bar. And then whenever a new person turned up, we'd turn around and their face would just go from sort of a normal one to one of complete shock and awe and open mouth and wide-eyed. And and it was incredible. But the thing that I'll remember is just how the excitement ramped up. And it didn't stop ramping up. It continued throughout the whole weekend, particularly, obviously, when we got to cue music playing. That obviously, that was the height of everything, the end of that evening. But it just ramped up the whole time, and it didn't drop. And it was just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
That moment with George in the bar, we all said it. By the end of it, there was, I don't know, probably maybe 10, 15 of us all in the bar. And I remember going through this sort of thing in my head of, I need to get this on video. I need to get a photo. And then I was like, no, that's going to spoil it, because he's relaxed. He's at the bar. He's chilling out. Like, he's not on stage somewhere giving an interview. He's just hanging out at the bar. And chatting to everybody afterwards, everybody had that same thought of like, I need to get the video. I need to get the photo. And it was like, no. Let's just enjoy the moment and like, just let it happen, as Timothy would say. And yeah, it was a beautiful moment. And it was like, you know what he's like when he gets telling his stories, you know, maybe with about some of the ladies of his life and during the filming and all that kind of stuff. And so obviously we've all heard lots of those stories again previously in that, but hearing it from the horse's mouth right there while he's got a couple of whiskeys in him and stuff was just a absolutely lifetime memorable moment.
How were you actually in his presence though? Were you able to kind of contain your excitement and be cool on the exterior, or was it all just bubbling out?
Yeah, no, I think everybody played it cool, didn't they, Chris? It was, everybody was like, so I asked him a question. I was like, George, something I've always wanted to ask you. Did you and Diana Rigg, did it ever happen for real? And obviously he rattled off his story, which I won't repeat. But yeah, it was because once I guess it's somebody like George is so chatty and down to earth anyway, especially if he's got a couple of drinks in him. It didn't feel like this sort of weird celebrity moment. It was totally just a couple of dudes down the bar having a chat. You know, it had that feeling, which made it all the more special, which is why I'm glad nobody got the camera out. I think maybe one person snuck a photo without him seeing, but yeah, that was the beautiful moment.
The unexpected moments are the most unique. That's
definitely, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I had very similar experiences in Portugal, and I'll tell you, just real quick. I remember the morning I got there. Of course, like I'm flying from New York, so it's an overnight flight. So I got in around 7 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, oh my God, I'll be sitting out by the pool for a couple hours till they get my room ready. Nope, the hotel said, yeah, no, we can set you up. So I got right into my room. So of course I spent the day kind of just relaxing, took a nap, caught up on some sleep. At 5 o'clock, I'm thinking, well, I guess I better put myself together and go downstairs and see if people are starting to show up. Well, so sure enough, I got dressed in the shower, I go downstairs, and I step out of the elevator. The first person I see is Anders, and standing next to him is George Lazenby. And I'm like, this is just surreal. I mean, this is crazy, right? Hugged Anders, said hi to George, shook his hand, and kind of from then on, we went into the bar. All of a sudden now I'm seeing everybody else, so I know, and we're catching up, and it's great. But every night was sort of like that, where whenever we were doing during the day would happen, and then at night everyone would sort of just kind of go down to the bar, and every night I'm sitting here in the Palacio in Estoril, the hotel from the film. We're sitting in the bar, And every night this George Lazenby sitting there, and I'm like, this is just surreal. Like how could you possibly, like, I could never have invented this in my mind. Like, it was just so amazing. And it was, like you said, it was like, you know, George would sort of relax, tell some stories, people would talk, he'd have a story for everything, and it was just, again, just surreal.
Yeah, those are great moments to have great moments to enjoy. Yeah, in all privacy.
Yep.
So
well,
yeah,
I just want to add something, guys. It makes my heart very happy to hear these stories that you appreciated his presence, and I will certainly tell him about it too. Because I think Tom also caught or said something that is very important, because I remember I think I briefly walked past you guys in the bar when I was going to my room or something, but I just left, you know. I looked at George and he was having a good time, and I left him with you guys. And I think you said something really important, that as a Bond fan, you know, we have these various moments of fun or I mean, some more special than others, but I think it's also very important that, you, like you said, you enjoy the moment. Don't spoil it by running around, you know, catching every second of it, but just be there, enjoy the moment. And I think that's very important for me, of course, also for me, because I could be running around like with the camera as well, but I don't, because I think it's important to enjoy these special occasions, because having actor with us on a tour like that is, like Tom said, I don't, maybe Pierce would do it one day, but I think it's quite unique for sure.
I only realized that I think a month later or something, and it was like, geez, I've been on a holiday with George Lazenby for 10 days. It's like unbelievable. It's unbelievable that he went along. I mean, I can't imagine that he would come over for the Piz Gloria event and everything, but we were so lucky to have him in Portugal as well, and to just enjoy these small moments with him in all, you know, on the balcony. Everybody had these moments. So that was quite special.
Yeah, I think when I look back, it wasn't really difficult to get him to Switzerland, because, you know, we've been there before and he knows those people, and so he was used to that. But of course, the challenge for me this time was to actually bring him also to Portugal, because I mean, his young kids in LA is the most important things for him in his life at the moment, and it's very difficult for him to be away from those kids. But thankfully, I got one of his mates from LA to come with him. So. Right. Stuart, that's some of you guys.
Stuart was a nice
yeah. He's a very nice guy. He's a very nice guy, and he used to work.
Good henchman, Stuart.
You know, he used to be he used to be a bodyguard in LA. So he's you know, he told me he has Madonna he took care of once. He told me, so he's used to celebrities. But no, he's a really nice guy, Stuart, and I think that was a good.
I will never forget the moment that I picked you up from the airport at Lisbon, and everybody was we rented this crew vehicle, which was like a Renault van, a 10-seater or something, and everybody was going in the back, and Stuart, because he was the tallest of us all, he came sit next to me in the front seat. And I was driving from the airport to Estoril, and he was looking at me, and he was like, "Could you please slow down a bit, because we have all these special guests." I'm not even driving very fast, but he was like so protective of everybody and everything. That was really fun.
Yeah, no, he was very, very helpful for me too, of course, as a bodyguard.
But it must be said he enjoyed it himself as well a lot.
I think he enjoyed himself too much, actually. Not going into any details.
No. So we're in Muren, and it's Saturday, June 1st, exactly 1 year before today, and the day of the big event, and tension is building up, and Warren is traveling up and down the cable car with all his gear, I suppose. We didn't catch anything of that. So many things were happening at the same time, because people were doing helicopter flights, other people were downtown Lauterbrunnen walking around, going on the horse and carriage ride. other people were at the cars that were shown in at the Air Glaciers hangar. What else was there? There was a press conference at some point.
Exactly.
And I remember not knowing where to go to, and I had to be there, and I totally missed the cars. Thank God it was all captured on film, because I didn't see it. But obviously, Warren, you had a lot of work that day as well.
Well, we started setting up in that sort of level down. We were there from 9 o'clock in the morning. So we were there all day, and actually we were sound checking in the afternoon when the press conference you're talking about started happening, and we were asked we had to stop playing basically, and bearing in mind we had that 20-minute medley of Majesty's cues to do, which we'd never played before that day, and we were probably about halfway through just playing it for the first time when we were told that's it, you can't make any more noise, and I was like, we need to at least play this through once before we do it tonight. Like I have absolute faith in the guys' ability and how good they are, but I wanted to at least give us the best possible chance. So we literally had to do it on whisper mode. And when I say whisper mode, so everyone that was plugged into power just had to turn the volume basically off, and all the brass players, we literally just had to sort of just what I would call pick the notes. So instead of actually playing the note, the equivalent, instead of talking, we were whispering basically. So we have to do the rest of this medley on just whisper quiet volume, just so that we could kind of put the markers down for the medley, so that when we put it all together that night, it just slotted together. But yeah, that was sort of my afternoon, which meant I missed out on all the amazing stuff that I now or since saw the photos of the helicopter flights in particular. I mean, how amazing was that, guys? I saw the pictures you shared again earlier on today. It just looked amazing.
That was surreal, absolutely. Yeah. And Markus, you had a little bit of a musical experience as well that afternoon during the press conference, because you captured the moments where the whole cast and crew was singing "We Have All the Time in the World." Yeah, that was quite brilliant.
That was funny. I was lucky to be able to attend the press conference, and they went all out, and everybody was relaxed. All the guys were still below. They had some separate thing going on, which we have seen in the movie before. Drinks, I think, in Greek station it was. So we were relaxing, going out, and they eventually went together looking at the scenery, and it wasn't planned. It was kind of spontaneous, and it just happened to be next there, and they started to sing, and I'm like, oh my God. And I just didn't even know if I get the right thing. And then it was the only thing. I put something online, and it was just for fun. It's 20 seconds, and it was tick, 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 tick. It went up in a few thousands. And then I only realized 24 hours, 2 days later, oh, I think that was quite a special moment. When I was there, it was just oh, that's nice. Let's take hold on that. And luckily I did.
I love about that video, Markus, is they get to the second line of the lyrics and they all go they all know the first line, and then after that it's just blank.
But with a lot of enthusiasm and fun, so that was the most important one. And they tried it again, so I captured both of them, but I think I put on only the first version, so still one hasn't been published yet, but it's the same thing.
Unpublished footage.
Yeah. That was a fun moment.
Was absolutely. It was a unique moment, and I think everybody was enjoying himself at the press conference. They were all in a good mood.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. We were also, like we said before, in good hands, because Alan and Samuel from Chiltern Bar was there.
Yeah.
And because they were both a group. Well, first they were interviewed, all of them together, and then individual interviews with the Swiss press and.
Right, and CNN.
CNN Money, yes, CNN Money. That's right.
So Martin, I was going to say, another thing which I really enjoyed was, you mentioned the cars earlier. So basically, was it halfway between the two cable cars, basically, there was a big sort of, almost like an airplane hangar. I don't know if it was or not, but basically we had lots of different cars. We had the two Lotuses, the white, the sort of copper Lotus. We had the DB5 and so on. But I really enjoyed having a chat with, is it Eric Levita?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. Can you tell everyone a bit about that?
Well, Eric, I think Anders, you proposed him, or Schiltonbahn proposed him. I had never heard of Eric, to be honest, and he's such a great guy. And he did the car chase on the ice. He was the coordinator of the car stunts, and he doubled for Diana. A couple of days ago, we were chatting online at some Facebook page, and I jokingly said to him that he still doubles for Diana every now and then, you know, dressing up like her. But no, yeah, he was a fun guy to talk to, absolutely. And he was really eager to talk.
He was a nice addition, I must say, also, because he was not. I don't think he was thought about at the previous events in 2014 and 15, for example.
Yeah, I suggested Eric Glavice to the previous events to Christoph Ecker for the Bond World and for the Walk of Fame. I was already in contact with him, but somehow he slipped through. So I was really happy that he turned out that he was invited this time, because he really wanted to go. He was never back. Yeah, he was on the list, but kind of he was the one who couldn't be invited the first 2 times. So luckily this time it went well.
We can also add that I sent out an invite also, of course, to Willy Bogner.
Right.
But his team responded that he wasn't able to come at those dates for some reason. And I also spoke to Diana Riggs' manager, and she was doing some film. She was filming an Edgar Wright movie of some kind that weekend. So that was the official explanation of why she couldn't come with us.
And don't forget Joanna Lumley.
And Joanna Lumley, of course, who is a super nice person. I've been fortunate to meet her a couple of times, and I contacted also her manager, and then I think she gave me a very nice response that she was going to talk to Joanna, blah blah blah. And then like a week or 2 weeks later, I had an email actually directly from Joanna. I almost fell out of my chair because
you don't get that every day. Yeah.
I don't get an email from Joanna Lumley every day, no. So then she sent me this fantastic letter that you included in the book.
Right.
Yeah.
She would have loved to come. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I should also Michael Reed, of course, the director of photography. I spoke to his daughter. Mike is still with us, but he's in an elderly home at the moment. He's 90 something. But so he couldn't come for that reason, and also Monty Norman actually was confirmed originally. I spoke to both Monty and his wife, and they really want to come. They even spoke to Hotel Iger staff, because he needs to come in a wheelchair occasionally. So he was coming actually, but then I think it was only a couple of days before he sadly had to cancel.
The same with Zahira.
Yeah. Oh, so that's Sahira. Yeah, or Sarah. It's a mystery there, but yeah, she was coming as well. That's right. She was coming from London, but also got a last minute cancellation.
That happened.
Yeah, and Peter Lamont, I spoke to many times, and every time he said to me, Anders, I really, really want to come, but I'm getting old, and I can't. I simply can't, he said. But he wanted to come as well, actually.
He's in his 90s, I suppose.
He's 90, I think 92 in November. Yeah.
Well,
he's an amazing guy. His memory is crystal clear, almost still. Like John Glennon. John Glennon's 88, so he's not a youngster either. But it's a great guy.
Jeff,
yes.
What was the thing that you best remember from that Saturday, that event day? What sticks out in your memory?
Beyond my wife Shannon walking around the helicopter pad with Sadie, getting her not to cry during that. Well, I was trying to have fun. So, we had, I guess, after the dinner, there was, well, eventually Warren's music was playing and the casino was going on and there were Bond girls gambling at a table and you could just intermingle, similar to meeting George at the bar, which Tom was talking about. You could just walk right up and start chatting with these people. Up there we had John Glenn and who else was up there? Like lots of like the Bond stars were up there, so it was just incredible to be hanging out with them. Vic Armstrong I had dinner with, amazing. Like, how do you do that? Like on top of Piz Gloria. So, absolutely
He's a fun guy.
Great guys.
They're a fun couple.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you to all you guys that put it on. It was amazing. Just to walk around Piz Gloria and see all these amazing Bond actors and fans, fantastic.
It was a good mix of cast, crew, and fans.
Yeah, just that music like coming up towards the casino was just incredible. Like
that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was hard to get a front row seat to your performance, Warren. A lot of people came right to the front.
Yeah, that was always going to be the tricky part, wasn't it? That it was the people at the front. I mean, in some ways, I think, I don't know, you, Tom and Chris were right there in the front, probably made the atmosphere all the better being so close to it. But at the same time, I think for anyone who wasn't in that front row position, it was quite a low ceiling and you probably couldn't get a great vantage point, I guess. I don't know.
I was all the way in the back and I enjoyed it a lot, actually.
Yeah, well, it was great. If anybody doesn't know, it was on the band was on the one level lower and we were kind of having dinner one level up and all the music just surround sounded the whole place. So just amazing.
Yeah.
I got to curl in a tuxedo on the top. So pretty cool.
Yeah, that was one of Sammy's ideas to put up a curling. What do you call it? Curling alley or a curling
rink or something?
Ring? No, it wasn't a ring.
Rink. Maybe.
Rig. Yeah.
Rink. Curling. Hockey. Come on.
Hockey rink.
Hockey rink. Curling rink. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a good idea.
It's just so much to drink in. There was so much to drink in. Even just going to the toilet was an experience there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easy, Warren, easy.
Tell us, Warren, what happened?
Well, I mean, you guys all know, but they just had all kinds of things going on in the toilet, didn't they? Had people quotes from the film talking to you whilst you were, doing your business and stuff. I mean, I've never been to the loo so many times in one evening in my life.
I think just getting what you're saying there, Warren, about there's so much to take in. I remember at the halfway point of the music, of literally just taking a step outside. I went outside and just literally lay down looking at the stars, and it was sunset over Piz Gloria, and I just had to pinch myself for a moment to actually think, we're here. Everywhere you went, there was an experience that you just know may not even come again. And I just remember maybe taking 5 or 10 minutes out and just thinking, this is surreal, absolutely surreal.
I also really enjoyed the cocktail dinner at Berg, because that's obviously we stopped off at Berg first, everyone dressed up, and you knew what was coming. You could see Piz Gloria just up there. You knew it was going to be an amazing night.
The anticipation was huge.
Yeah, amazing. And everyone had their few martinis. Everyone was in groups chatting, taking photos, amazing scenery, and again, it's that case of building up and up, and yeah, that I really like that part of it as well. It was fantastic.
It was a good
Everyone had a smile on their face, didn't they? Everyone was just so up for it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that's funny. When I look at the film, the video, the stuff that you shot, Jeff, I see myself smile from like day one until that final day, and it just didn't go away. It was unbelievable. We were so lucky with so many things, especially like you said. I think Joe, you said it with the weather in Switzerland. It had been awful the weeks before, like a month before, raining, snowing, and even up until the point we were in Estoril. And we were checking the weather report for what was supposed to come in a few days. And, how's Piz Gloria going to be? And we were checking the webcam, and it was like fog all over the place. It was gray. You couldn't see anything.
I know somebody said it before. I mean, it was so incredible. Like, we're talking about being in Berg. I mean, I have pictures from there, and the weather is so perfect. The clouds are so perfect. honestly, I kind of feel like I don't think when people see this that they can appreciate this is real. Like it's not. It looks like if you painted that, you would not have painted a better looking picture. I mean, it was just incredible. Everything just. I mean, talk about the planets just aligning.
Yeah, that's true. With that incredible sunset, and I think somebody typed something about the sunset being great now at the moment as well. So it's coincidental.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. It's really amazing when we think back. I mean, now we're in the middle of the Chinese virus shit, and only a year ago. I mean, imagine if this had been last year, you know, we would have been devastated.
If On Her Majesty's had come out 3 weeks later, this would
yeah.
have been the year.
You know what?
Exactly.
If I had to choose for the virus to have been last year or this year, and to have either delayed or cancelled Majesty's 50 or No Time to Die, I would choose the delay of No Time to Die.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Yeah, I would. I mean, I've got to say, I know Brian and I talked about this afterwards, and I wonder how you felt about it, but I've spoken to quite a few people that attended, and everybody felt after the event that they were so flat for such a long time. It was almost like being in mourning, and I felt like for quite a while, it took me quite a long time to get over the fact that I felt like I was never going to feel that high ever again in my life, because nothing could ever compare to how amazing that weekend was. And actually, it wasn't until the JBR guys anyway, all got together and did the Casino Royale live Secret Cinema, had that just one of the best nights out, that I actually started to feel happy again. Like, I don't know how you guys felt, but I know, Brian, you and I talked about that, and we were saying how low we felt afterwards, or just coming down from that high.
Completely. I remember 3 or 4 weeks after that event just thinking, everything I'm doing now just feels so shallow in comparison, and it took ages to get over that, because I was just reliving it and replaying it in my head all the time.
I'm blaming Martin. Martin, you're putting us all in counselling after your event.
I'm curious to see how Martin's ever gonna follow this up.
Yeah,
that is the big question. I would say there are, when you look at ultimate Bond locations, I would say there's potentially 3. You've got Piz Gloria, obviously. You've got James Bond Island in Thailand. And then I would say the last one of the 3 is GoldenEye. And I think those are like crazy religious moment locations. And there's other great ones as well, obviously. But there's something about those 3, I think, that just raise them above all others. And I think the only thing that could possibly maybe hold a candle to Majesty's 50 would be a Jamaica trip, going all the way through GoldenEye and seeing all those old Dr. No locations and stuff. Maybe. I don't know, though.
Have to go and find out.
Let's find out.
Can we go to Las Vegas first then?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
That would also be cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I heard you all talk about a lot of highlights, but there's one highlight that I haven't heard yet, and that was the Sunday afternoon highlight, which was an incredible football match.
I'm still gutted. I missed that.
That was so much fun, and it was kind of a bit off the cuff, wasn't it? Because we weren't sure if we were going to have a football or not, and then luckily we found one and we hid it because there were a few other people around. And we want to make sure that it was still there for when we had our game.
We were walking. I think it was Saturday evening. We were walking back from Piz Gloria Saturday night. And we just
some champagne.
we bumped into each other or something, and we started talking about the football match. And you were obviously in charge of getting a football. You were made in charge of you arranged the football.
Yeah, that was it. If I didn't get one, game over. But luckily we managed to find one. And we got how many? Well, I think we had 10 of us in the end, didn't we? We had 5.
Yeah, and Ronaldo.
And Ronaldo, one of the locals. this guy. So we were just having a bit of a kick around, and some guy who must have, I don't know if he was on his holidays or if he lived there, he must have been waiting months, looking out of his window for people to turn up on this football field. And as soon as we got there, he legged out. He had his Ronaldo top on. He had all the gear, the shin pads, the football boots, and he was so excited.
Was he any good?
He was decent, wasn't he? Yeah.
But you think about the heat and the altitude. It's amazing that. Plus, we had a fair bit of champagne before we even started playing. I don't know how we did 90 minutes. I really do not.
Yeah. We had an extended champagne breakfast that day, and I think it probably showed when we were playing football. But I'm glad you said that, Martin, because that was one of the highlights, because it's one that we didn't know was going to happen. But it was one that, obviously was a lot of fun. And we're just going to have to bring a football to the next event that we do.
That was definitely one of the things that I liked a lot, because I've been looking at that schedule for months, and I knew exactly what was going to happen when. And this was so spontaneous that I loved it. It was great.
But didn't we have like Spectre versus Quantum or something like that? Were those the teams?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was great. And then on the other hand, I also wrote that in the book, that in retrospect, I think the event should have ended with the Saturday evening, because it was such a huge highlight, and the Sunday could never top it.
The Saturday High was nearly responsible for finishing Cue the Music. I mean, I the next gig that we did 2 weeks ago, and Joe knows this, and Dave Zariski as well, because I was talking to them quite a lot of the time. I went from such a high to the next show that we did, literally from, and those days we were doing it chronologically, from Russia with Love, from the second piece into the concert. I'd made up my mind for the rest of the concert that I was as soon as the gig was over, I was going to work out my exit strategy and finish Cue the Music, because I thought, what's the point in doing it now? Like, I should have made that. At that time, I was thinking I should have made that event the last thing we ever did, because nothing could ever reach that. It just all felt. It was. I'm trying to think of the right words to describe it, but yeah. So you nearly finished us, Martin, with your event, because it was so good. That's how good it was.
It was funny you said that, because when you said you were on a high, I thought you were referring to like how the altitude affected your playing, because you said what was it like playing at such altitude? Do you know what? The actual gig was fine for me, because the adrenaline kicked in. The rest of the day, up until the event, I was feeling really queasy, and some of the band were really struggling. Like my sound engineer, I was wondering at one point whether she was even going to be able to do it, because she was actually crying with how ill she felt. And even Kerry as well. Kerry was struggling with the altitude to the point where she was stuttering, and she was crying as well and saying, "How can I sing? I can't even speak." And luckily, I had some herbal stuff in my bag, which just some ginseng and stuff, and that just seemed, for whatever reason, that seemed to sort her out. But I think also the adrenaline kicked in as well. So yeah, it was hard. But I think it was harder for the others than it was for me, because I was just living such a high. Because I would, foot in either camp, performer but also a fan. That kind of really just, once that kicked in, that the ill effects just disappeared really. I mean, the way that you guys performed, and Kerry as well, just phenomenal under those sort of conditions. Really, really was amazing. And the Majesty's melody, I mean, obviously perfect place for it, but everyone was loving it so much. I was saying to Tom recently, when we were there, we were listening and we were looking around, and everyone was either crying out of joy or just had the biggest grin, just out of pure elation, and it was unforgettable, man.
There was a lot of grown men in tears. There really was.
Mm-hmm. There's a few moments in the show, and I've watched it and listened to it a few times since, and a few times. I'll be honest, I've listened to quite a few times, because reliving that high. And there's a few moments in there, like Dirty Love, the kind of raw animal like vibe that was in the room when we started doing that was something else. And then when we did the propeller heads at the end, which is coming up in a minute, actually, one of the things that we're playing in a minute, there was just an amazing moment when I looked out and I could see the disbelief in people's face that we were doing it. They just couldn't believe. I know, Joe, you said it. You couldn't believe that we were doing the medley and then the extreme other end of the scale. And that was just a feeling that you could bottle it and just keep living it over and over again. That would,
you're not kidding. I mean, I really did have a moment where I was like, I mean, I couldn't believe that you were doing something that had been performed by John Barry in the 60s, and you made it sound like I can't, sometimes I get disappointed even going to regular concerts because, you know, artists tend to, they don't want to make it sound like it does on the record. They want to sort of do this other spin on it. And usually I'm kind of like, oh, that's nice too. But I kind of came. So when you guys did it and nailed it, I was just like, wow. I mean, that was just incredible. Because again, I'm watching this band put that same music together, and I'm like, it's flawless. It's just incredible. But then, yeah, and I'm like a big closet fan of the Propellerheads version of that. So when you guys did that, I kind of went like, no. And I like, you seriously, you went from this brassy 60s to this modern techno, and I'm like, how did that happen? Like, I mean, it was almost like I questioned my understanding of music and how it's performed. You know, so yeah, I mean, that just blew my mind. Just incredible.
I actually, with that piece as well, I had the devil's choice there because, and Martin, you'll know what I'm going to say here. Where literally before we played that one, we knew I had like an encore section that was about as long as the actual bloody gig. I mean, there was 4 things that we were planning for that, and all of them were amazing. One of them was the James Bond theme, which Tom Sears was going to come and guest with us, weren't you, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely.
And do the Bond theme on guitar because, you know, not a lot of people probably realise that you're an incredible guitarist as well yourself. And then we also had, do you know how Christmas trees are grown, in which Anders and Martin and everyone had lined up the Angels of Death to make up the choir to sing the chorus bits for it, which was going to be amazing. They'd had a rehearsal and everything else. We also had Surrender, which I really wanted to finish with as well, to kind of, you know, it's a great song and Kerry singing it. And then Martin, you came up with, I think you or Sammy said you can only do one more. So I was like, which one do I pick? Really hard choice.
Yeah.
There was a particularly, what Joe was just saying about how spot on the sounds were and stuff. I remember watching the recording that you streamed, I think, Warren, wasn't it? I think you did like a live stream.
Yeah.
I think it was Over and Out where it kind of goes all quiet and then you hear like the synth go bom, 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 bing, bom, bom, just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You can clearly hear me go, ooh. Just so bang on the money.
It's a perfect track to finish on because I remember you saying, Warren, that you had a potential long track to finish, but you wouldn't actually elaborate on what it was. But as soon as those notes kicked in on the Propellerheads, I just thought you couldn't have picked a better track to finish the night on.
That was the best thing to pick as well, because when they said there's one track left over, if we'd have done the Bond theme, that would have been over in a minute and a half, whereas that goes on for about 25 minutes. So it was like...
Well, it's a good choice.
I think the other thing is, I think if the Bond Girls had still been there, I might have done that, because that moment would have been a little bit of the lightning in a bottle moment. To have the Angels of Death up there and singing, although it's let's be honest, it's not the best song in the world. We've never ever done it in our history. That was the exception when I was going to do it for one time. But I think I knew that we had to end the Majesty's event in that split second. I thought we've got to end it with the iconic, you know, something to do with Majesty's. So that was, you know, it was the right call on the spot. But it's a shame we couldn't have done all 4.
No, on behalf of the girls, Warren, again, you know, they were really up for it, and you know, we rehearsed it at the hotel earlier today, but you know, and we waited, and then I think I was talking to somebody and said, no, just 15 more minutes or 20 more minutes, or but the girls were really getting tired, and
one of them was on crutches as well, wasn't she?
Jenny, that's right, Jenny. Jenny actually wanted to be part of this tonight. Actually, she texted me, but she couldn't get the thing working. But she sends her best regards to everybody.
Oh, that's very nice.
She was a real sweetheart. She sat at my table. She was wonderful.
They were all very lovely. Everybody was great. I think great guests.
So, Anders, what did George think overall of the actual event, particularly the Saturday night? Did you speak to him afterwards and what his thoughts were on the meal and cue the music and everything like that?
Well, I mean, overall, it was a very memorable trip for him. I mean, I don't know. I stopped counting, but I don't remember now how many times he actually called his kids from various locations. You know, from the where the spot was Tracy, where Tracy died.
the hotel in Bern, the hotel, of course, in Portugal and Switzerland, and various other places. And he really, he FaceTimed them, so he was showing them, the actual locations as well. It was very sweet of him. But I think towards the end of the trip, he was actually very tired. He was very tired because, of course, he had gotten all the attention for so long, and I mean, after all, he's 80 years old. So. Yeah. But I mean, in retrospect, I think it was very, very special trip for him, and most memorable for sure. And I ordered a couple of extra copies of the book from Martin, and I gave to all of George's children 1 copy each. So cool. they have all seen the whole trip and everything that happened there.
It was funny that at some point we were at the balcony in Bern, and George was there, and he was trying to FaceTime with his children, and he turned to me and he said, "What was it that I filmed here?" So I explained it to him, and he was like, "Okay," and he's going to show it, and he's showing it to his kids. It was so funny.
Yeah,
but
funny and very sweet.
Yeah. Well, George doesn't look like he's 80, and he doesn't act like he's 80. So you tend to forget how old he is.
Yeah, no, he's very. I mean, he's obviously very fit for his age.
Yeah. Amazing. That's the only way you could keep up with us during the events.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the other guests, I mean, Terry, of course, he's already excited for the next one.
He's just hoping to be invited.
Yeah, exactly. He's just waiting for his invite.
So are we all.
So, no, I mean, Jenny and all the girls, Jenny, Catherine, Helena, all of Silvana, great girls. Super fun to be around.
All the girls they've been looking at Diamonds Are Forever like 10 times, trying to figure out if they were in it or not.
Exactly.
I must have been in this. I want to be in this.
Terry actually, sorry, Terry actually sent me today a message, and he was just talking about the event last year and about next year, and hopefully there will be something in Las Vegas. It was like a 5 minutes video message I got, so really nice, and you just must love the guy, man. He's great. He's amazing.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. I wish all of us, when we reach that age, if we have the same, same appetite for life, 80, 83. That's amazing.
And Terry, so he embraces the fans so much. He's always ready to go on photographs with everybody, and that's a lot of fun. It's great.
Yeah.
What's amazing, he remembers everybody by name. I think I told you that, Martin, the other day. Was one guy from Germany. He was the first time on a trip like that, and Terry goes straight up to him. I was just standing next. Saying, "Who are you? I've never met you." And this guy was like, "What? What have I done?" And he says his name. Okay, goes back. Next day, he goes there. "Hi, Thomas," or whatever. I can't remember his name right now. So that's amazing. I can't even remember my name sometimes. So.
He often turns up with gifts as well for people.
I think he bought Joe a beer without Joe recognizing 100% who he was on like the first minute in Portugal.
He certainly did. The first night we were in the bar, I hadn't even met him yet, and all of a sudden we're sitting there, and I hear, "All right, I'm buying a round. Who wants a beer?" And I'm like, "I'll take a beer." And I was like, and somebody, "Oh my God, that's Terry Mountain." So I was like, "Oh my God," it could not have been nicer. And I ended up, I remember at the end of the night, he and I must have talked, just set to get the two of us for like at least a half an hour or something. He really nicer. He really likes you, Joe. I really like him. He's just such a great guy. Could not be more warm. Yeah, just what a terrific guy. I can't wait to do the next one with him there.
Should be fun, yeah. What do you think? Is it about time to go to the live music?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, sure.
Before we do, Martin, I think on behalf of everyone, I'm sure everyone will want to say, but mate, thank you so much for organising last year. What an incredible event you put on, and I speak for myself, but apart from my kids being born, the most amazing weekend of my entire life, and I will treasure it forever and ever. Thank you so much, man.
Well, you're welcome.
Thanks, Martin.
Those words are echoed for all of us.
Thank you,
There's
Mark.
only a few days in your life that you wish you could live over and over again. I that's easily one of them. I swear to God.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
the whole trip was absolutely amazing.
I'm just very happy that everybody had such a great time, and that a lot of you were part of it, either helping me out or just being there. So thank you guys, and thanks for being here tonight with this chat, because it's been a lot of fun and it's great reliving all these memories and moments, and so I had a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Cutie Music live now.
Just a highlight reel coming up.
That's good. But we also have, Warren, we also have to thank Duncan.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes,
Yeah.
Duncan, one of my technicians who was there with us last year, working busily behind the scenes, and he's busily working behind the scenes tonight. He's the one that's been coordinating all the tech side of what we're doing tonight. So huge thanks to him, because he's done it just as a favour.
Great job, Duncan. Thanks.
Thank you, Duncan.
Thanks,
I
Duncan.
think
He helps me out all the time. Thank you, Duncan.
So I think we're ready for the music, Duncan.
Check out onthetracksof007.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.